Creator's Child presents Intuition Helps, India Cares. The other day, one of our students, in the middle of the day, let us call her Shweta, called us up and asked us to look for a relative of hers who had gone missing on a train. You are in conversation with Tarun and Celia Cherian and their students, co-founders, Creator's Child and Devadara Healing. The person we were looking for was an elderly gentleman in his late 70s on a medication that made him slightly disoriented. He was accompanied by 3 others in the family, and he had gone to the loo. When he did not return half an hour later, they got a little worried. And they frantically searched the train. And then naturally they called Shweta, a strong intuitive, who also called us. Now, Shweta, before she called us, had already done an aura scan. And she got that her relative, let us call him Satish, was alive, very much alive. And all 3 of us, Celia, me and Shweta, got one fact, that he was alive. The second question was, where was he? Well, here's where things get interesting. I got that he was on a train, and how could I make that out? Because behind him was the train's blue seat. Celia got that he had got off the train. And Shweta got an odd statement. She said, yeah, he's on the train, but he's not in the same compartment. He's in a different compartment. He's facing the other direction. Now we pushed a little further. And sometimes when we're doing intuition, we try to get details to see whether we are actually on track or off track. So I had got the detail that, without being told, that Satish had been, and the whole family had been, in a train compartment called A3. And that, when Shweta checked, was true. So we did know that Satish was alive, disoriented. He had probably got off the train, but got back on, and he was sitting in another compartment. But anyway, the relatives who were frantic obviously contacted the railway staff, who were extremely helpful. And they put a massive search out. Half an hour later, Shweta called us up and gave us the good news. Satish had been found. Yes, Satish had been found. And the thing is, you may think that all 3 of us, Shweta, me and Celia, had got contradictory intuitions. But now you will see how beautifully it all meshed together. They found Satish, but he wasn't on the train that was coming to Bangalore. He had got off the train for some reason, asked people on the train, and he was put on another train. Let's say he was coming from Delhi to Bangalore. So all that had stuck in his head was probably the word Delhi. And he had asked the people on the station to direct him to a train leaving to Delhi. And they had put him on a train going back to Delhi. Now comes to the other half of the story. The railway staff were extremely helpful. They located him on the train going the other direction. They deboarded him. They took him and put him on a flight coming back to Bangalore. So all is well. Now there are two key lessons in this story. And the first is that intuition works. And though sometimes it may give us seemingly contradictory truths, if we trust ourselves, and all three of us, Shweta, Celia and I, were trusting ourselves, we got seemingly contradictory truths, all which formed a part of a greater truth. The second lesson, broad lesson, is that India cares. This story about an elderly gentleman, slightly disoriented, is so revealing. First, the family of four were all coming down to care for this elderly gentleman. Two of them are working in corporate jobs, barely have the time, and yet they were on a train journey, spending 2 precious days to care for their parent. Second, the people on the train station were very helpful and helped Satish get on to a train. The railway staff went way out of their way to help. Not only did they locate Satish, not just in the train that he was originally booked on, but in an arbitrary other train. And there are many trains leaving a major junction. It didn't stop there. They didn't just locate him. They escorted him from the train station to the airport. And there they spent hours at the airport ensuring that he was boarded, that he came back safely. There are, of course, many other lessons that are worth looking at. And this is about truth in general. Today we're all divided, fighting over truths. In America, it's literally a civil war. Democrats versus Republicans. In India, the NDA versus the Mahabharatbandhan seems as if it is one Mahabharat happening. Everywhere it seems as if there is no way out, that we are all in a highly combative situation. And it is here that we must remember that while we have contradictory truths, our contradictory truth sometimes forms small fragments of a greater mural. Now we can go even further and even deeper. And it's easy today to forget, with the power of science, that things are not all facts, not all figures. but that there is a greater web of life beneath the internet that we use so strongly, beneath the network of satellites circling us. There is a greater web that connects us and sustains us. At a very physical level, between nature and man. At a deeper level, unseen and invisible. Whether you call it quantum connect or whether you call etheric connect, we're deeply connected. Thank you for subscribing to our channel, visiting creativechild.com and growing with God.